Virtual Racing School was developed to provide support to the next generation of sim racers. No matter if you're a rookie or veteran or what car or track you'll be racing, our goal is to provide training every step of the way. We found that iRacing can be quite difficult without proper training. There needed to be a way to prepare for on-track racing. With VRS, you can literally learn from the best sim racers in the world, including four-time NASCAR iRacing World Champion Ray Alfalla.
And Ray Alfalla is a four-time champion of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series.
Three-time iRacing Grand Prix World Champion Martin Kroenke.
Martin Kroenke becomes a three-time world champion.
Rallycross World Champion Mitchell de Jong.
Mitchell de Jong is now champion for the iRacing Rallycross World Championship Series.
And many other top sim racers. Data packs include everything you need to start learning. Our World Championship coaches create the data packs by setting a hot lap or a series of fast laps for you to compare, analyze, and replicate. Data packs also include a tutorial where the coach points out techniques they use to hit the fast lap. This gives you access to the latest driving techniques and setups before you even hit the track. Sign up for a free account and download the VRS telemetry logger. With this application running seamlessly in the background, your laps automatically start syncing to the VRS website. From there, you can analyze and compare two laps of your choice, whether it's your data, the coaches, or your teammates. VRS will automatically target improvement opportunities so you can get up to speed even faster. VRS also makes it easy for you to request and schedule one-on-one or group coaching sessions. These sessions can range from 30 to 90 minutes, and you can select the car, track, and setup combination of your choice. Visit virtualracingschool.com today to sign up and get started.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Season 4 of the Ray Esports Racing League presented by Spec Racer Sports Alliance Autosport and RaceVoice here on Apex Racing TV. It's week number 6, and tonight we find ourselves at the home of tradition, beauty, and speed. Opened in 1959 when life and road racing seemed so much more simple than today. And tonight's venue, it features corners that also may sound a bit generic. We've got the uphill, we've got the downhill, we've got the left and right handers, and there's even a no-name straight. But racing is anything but simple here. Tonight's drivers will navigate the 1.5 mile bull ring in 1 minute or less, and this purpose-built race course on the National Register of Historic Places is the only one here in the United States. Tonight we travel to Lime Rock Park, with Brian Donati joining me in the announce booth and Apex Racing TV's Dennis Branch manning the controls for what should be two great races. First, we've got a 20-minute MX-5 race, and then we've got the return of the Spec Racer Fords to the Ray Esports Racing League tonight. So first, hi and good evening, Brian.
Good evening there, Greg. How are you?
I'm doing very well this morning, oh my gosh, this evening. The days, the nights, they all seem to run together at this time of year. So as I mentioned, Brian, first up, we've got the Mazda MX-5s, and they're coming off for the second race in a row. A finish where bumping and banging really determine the makeup of the podium. And as tight as Lime Rock is, even with the addition of the chicane that we're going to be running tonight at the end of the no-name straight and the passing opportunities that it will no doubt create, I'm wondering if we should expect maybe a little bit more of the same here.
Yeah, Greg, I tell you what, we are at the short track of road course racing. And if we thought feelings got hurt last week, as you mentioned, towards the end of that race, with a little bit of bumping and banging, you're going to see that here, especially as you talked about, as they go up through the chicane, up through the uphill. That's a 3-story climb. They got to get hard on the brakes, get through that chicane, then get back down to that west bend and then down the hill. It's going to be very tricky. So you're definitely going to see some bumping and banging going on here.
Yeah, and you know, this track is rightfully referred to as a bull ring, Brian. In its normal configuration, 7 turns. We've got the chicane thrown in, which puts in another 3 turns, so make it 10. But you know, with the exception of the one left-hander that we've got in that chicane, you know, I mean, pardon me, the one right-hander that we have in the chicane. Normally, this track only has a single right-hand turn, as we go through, and we're about right now we're about 9 minutes into a 15-minute qualifying session here at Lime Rock Park. So tell you what, without further ado, Brian, why don't we talk a little bit about what we saw last week at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. It was a pretty good battle here. Zach Burke led the majority of the way in the Mazda MX-5s. And then with about 2 laps, not 2 laps, but with about 5 minutes remaining in that 20-minute race, Murphy Nichols, who had been running third, got around his teammate Caleb Patry, moved up in the second, and then 2 laps later, heading down into the Andretti hairpin, turns 2 and 3 over at Laguna Seca, got into the back of our leader, Zach Burke, and took over the lead for all of about 10 seconds. As both he and Burke had a pretty good advantage on the rest of the field, but both of those drivers, it took a long time for them to get their cars back underway, fell back to 4th place for Burke, 6th place for Nichols, respectively, and as Zach Burke maybe had a little bit of red mist trying to work his way back up to the lead, got into the back of Jamison Huffman, coming out of turn 11 on the penultimate lap, going down into Andretti on the final lap of the race, and it allowed Caleb Patry, who at that point had been escalated to the lead, gave him a substantial victory, I believe, by over 3 seconds over Morgan Burkhardt. Brendan Horn worked his way up into up in the third. Murphy Nichols worked his way back up to 4th, finishing just off the podium, and a great run from Wanqi Lin, who at one point, about midpoint in that 20-minute race, was sitting back in 9th place. He finishes up in 5th. So let's go. We'll take a look at the points and see how things stand here after this will be, I believe, the 4th of 6 races for the Mazda MX-5s. Morgan Burkhardt, he is your points leader. You can see there by 11 points over Zach Burke, and does not appear as though Zach Burke is here this evening, although Morgan Burkhardt is, so that could make for a major change, and should add that Burke was our points leader coming into last week's race. Brennan Horn holds steady in 3rd place, only 1 point back from Zach Burke. Caleb Patry moved up 3 positions. He's sitting in 4th right now, and then Jamison Huffman with Remy Esperance, Murphy Nichols, who picked up a number of positions even with that 4th place finish, sitting in 7th, and you can see Jordy Fike, Lewis Lockshine, and Michael Keltner rounding out the top 10. So a lot to gain here for Brennan Horn, who's sitting in 3rd in the championship right now. Obviously, Morgan Burkhardt going to want to make some points here to separate himself from the rest of the field. But Brian, as we can see here in qualifying, maybe not where we expected to be, with under 3 minutes remaining in qualifying here, is Josh Soto, who we've seen off and on here, both in Season 3 and Season 4 of the Esports Racing League, is currently a provisional pole sitter. Fast time, 59.39 seconds. That is just about 800ths of a second, 78 thousandths to be exact, clear of Kevin Langer. And I believe this may be Kevin's first outing with us here in the Esports Racing League. Giancarlo Schooler, Caleb Patry, 2 of those all-sport racing teammates currently running 3rd and 4th in qualifying, and it looks like Caleb Patry's coming out of the pits right now. He's going to try and get in a couple more fast laps here before the end of qualifying. And you know, Brian, with laps here being at about a minute or a little bit under a minute, you know, if you've got 2 minutes remaining, plenty of time to set a fast lap.
Yeah, you can go out there and get a pretty good lap out here. It's just going to depend on the traffic if you're really trying to get one. It looks like a lot of guys are here and out on the track. It looks like we may have about 29 people. Really 27 pretty much are going to take some time. Wanchi Lin coming in a little bit late here, so he's going to try to get a lap in, which he just does. But yeah, it's all going to be about traffic, Greg, whether or not you're going to be able to get in that good lap here with about a minute and a half left now.
That's right. And so looks like, as you mentioned, looks like we did have him set a fast lap. Lewis Lockshine, who also we were waiting on a fast lap from, puts himself in 10th. And we'll have to take a look here. Still, Andrew Abbott, who had been out for qualifying, probably out for practice earlier today, still has not set a lap, nor has Bob Kucera. So the 25 and the 45 machines still without laps. They are either going to be starting from the back of the field or possibly not starting at all. As we take a look right now, there's Suraj Pradham in the number 75 machine. He is currently sitting 23rd in the order. He's got a decent little gap there as we see a couple of the cars right ahead of him go off track. The 32 machine of Steven Vrooman. I would say that's one heck of a racing name to have right there. Mr. Vrooman went off coming out of looks like coming out of the left-hander, going into the right-hander, and maybe opened up a little bit of ground for him. And there we go. There's Remy Esperance in that 013 machine coming down into Big Bend, down in the turns 1 and 2. He is currently sitting 12th in the order. I'm sure would like to move his way up. This will be his and most of our drivers, I think, last flying laps. So we only have about 10 seconds remaining on the clock.
Yeah, you know what, Greg? One of the guys I'm going to look at here is the 55 Cam Eben. And earlier on, and we were talking about him right before we went on air, we were watching the practice times, and he was right up there at the top of the spot in that number 1 position with an under 1 minute time. Now, a bunch of guys out on the racetrack, it's kind of hard to get underneath that 1 minute mark. So
he's coming through the downhill now. He's going to cross the stripe. Let's see if he can move up from 17th in the order. Yep. And Brian, there you go. On the very last lap, he turns in a 59.58. That will put him 4th. And it looks like his crew is going to have a little work to do on the front end of that car leading into tonight's race.
He must have disconnected the brakes there as soon as he crossed the start-finish line, because he didn't even make that turn. Neither did the couple guys there going off. Remy Esperance didn't make that turn either. So.
Well, there you go. I think they're getting ready to go back to the pits. Big story here, though, is Morgan Burkhardt, who, again, is our current championship leader, only manages 7th fastest here. And we'll see as a couple cars are on their last flying laps, he may find himself a little bit further back in the pack. But, right now, he's looking at a start from the 4th row, probably not where he expected to be. And certainly here at Lime Rock, it's going to be somewhat difficult to move up through the pack.
Yep.
And we can see here's a little shot of the chicane down at the end of the no name straight with big sausage curbs there. You really got to watch it as you get in there. The Miatas probably won't be a big deal going through, but I can guarantee you, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, the Spec Racer Fords are going to have some trouble there with liftoff oversteer. All right, Brian, so we've got the starting grid up here at Lime Rock. Why don't we quickly run down through the grid? I'll hand it over to you.
All right, I'll go ahead and take this one. Starting on the pole with a time of 59.391. That's going to be the 07 of Joshua Soto. Starting outside row 1 in the 17 of Kevin Langer. Starting 3rd in that number 1, Giancarlo Schooler. Starting 4th, and we just talked about him a moment ago, the 55 of Cam Evan. Starting 5th, the number 198 of Caleb Patry. Starting 6th, the number 28 of Brendan Huron. Starting 7th, Greg was talking about it a moment ago, a little bit further back in the 40, that's Morgan Burkhardt. Starting 8th, the number 35 of Kyle Vallejos. Starting 9th, the number 221 of Charles Vaccaro. Starting 10th, the number 09 of Jordy Fike. Starting 11th, the number 124 of Lewis Lockshine. Starting 12th is the number 34 of Greg Barlow. Starting 13th is going to be the 013, and that's Remy Esperance. Starting 14th in the 062 is Greg Brockway. Starting 15th in the number 77 is Michael Incencio. Starting 16th in the number 30, and that's Wanshi Lin. Starting 17th, the number 21 of Ryan Carter. Starting 18th, the number 94 of Sean Hayes. Starting 19th, the number 16 of Pax Rolfe. Starting 20th, the number 32 of Steven Vrooman. Starting 21st, the number 78 of John Casey. Starting 22nd, the number 033 of Peter Rolfe. Starting 23rd, the number 75 of Sage Pradhan. Starting 24th, the number 02 of Gary Winters. Starting 25th, the number 27 of Andre Jameson. Starting 26th, the number 700 of Joaquin Effinger. Starting 27th, the number 80 of Andrew Wozencroft. Starting 28th, the number 45, and it doesn't look like they took a time. That's Bob Kucera. And starting 29th, shotgun on the field is going to be the number 25 of Andrew Abbott, and he also did not take a time there, Greg.
Yeah, not only that, but it looks like Kucera and Abbott may not have actually come onto the track for the pace lap. They may start from the pit lane as the pace car now bringing the field across and into West Bend right now. Let's quickly talk about our sponsor for tonight's races. We have just a couple seconds. RaceVoice is proud to once again sponsor the Race Sports Racing League. Take your driving to the next level with on-track audible performance alerts with RaceVoice and RaceVoiceSIM. Hear miles per hour, turn entry and exit speeds, upshift alerts, and other performance metrics which are selected and configured by you. To find out more about their products, head to racevoice.com and go faster with the speed of voice. And like that, the pace car, Brian, perfect timing on the pit lane. Our pole sitter Josh Soto has the field, and the green flag is in the air, and you can see here cars are stretching out now 4 wide as they make their way down the Sam Posey Straight into Big Bend. And as they roll through, our pole sitter, he loses a lot of ground as Josh Soto falls all the way back to 4th. Cam Eben, he steps up into the lead in the number 55 machine. He's got Kevin Langer, who started on the outside of the front row right behind him. Then we've got Caleb Patry. Then, as we mentioned, that green and gray number 07 is Soto running in 4th, and Brennan Horn, who makes up a position. Morgan Burkhardt, who picks up a position. Giancarlo Schooler, though, he falls all the way back into 7th position as we've got a driver off. That is the 221 of Charles Vaccaro, and he's going to try to come down. Oh, and Vaccaro gets tapped from behind. And who got him there? I think that was Siraj Pradhan who got into the back of the 221 car, under braking going into the chicane, and you can see a lot of cars off there. Looks like Andre Jameson. There's the replay, Brian.
Yeah, it looks like just didn't get on the brakes enough and ran right into the back of the 221 of Vaccaro.
Yeah, so a lot of cars there caught up trying to keep from running into the drivers in front, as we still have a lot of drivers now side by side going down into turn 1. Watching there, there's the 070 and a little tap from behind. Looks like Remy Esperance maybe getting into a car over there into the 77 machine of Michael Inocencio, but managing to nudge his way around as we're sitting and looking back right now in like 16th, 17th, and 18th spot. And you can see here things are still very tight as the drivers just now finally, after a lap and a half, Brian, start to perhaps line up here and try to carry speed, as our leaders are already going through West Bend and starting their way down the hill onto the front straight. But you can see Cam Eben, you talked about it, Brian, right as we were finishing up qualifying. Cam Eben, who looked so great in practice, did not put a great time in qualifying. He has now already stepped out to almost a 1.2 second advantage over Caleb Patry, with our pole sitter Josh Soto mired back in 3rd place, and looks like a little fight right behind him with Burkhardt, Horn, and Langer.
Yeah, those guys tried not to let Cam Eben get too far out ahead, but I tell you what, it looks like we've got one car there going off there, Greg.
That was Schooler.
Yeah, a little bit of may have been a little bit of contact there. We'll have to go back and see whether or not he had it or he just got into the turn just a little bit too much. Now we got more cars going off there. That's the 062 of Greg Brockway going off the racetrack there. But again, and now more contact here, Greg.
Wanshi Lin gets together with the 21 machine of Ryan Carter, going down into the chicane at the end of the no-name straight. So a lot of argy-bargy going on so far. And Brian, we're only 3 minutes in.
Yeah.
Laps in.
You're right, Greg. We get some replays here going on. Wanshi Lin and then Ryan Carter. Again, as you get down into here, you really want to set yourself up, and if somebody gets in front of you and gets on the brakes just a little bit sooner than what you expect them to do that, you're going to run right into the back of them. So it's kind of hard to get that, to understand what those people are doing in front of you, especially if you're too wide going in there trying to fight for that position.
Yeah, and in that case, it looked like Wan Lin thought maybe he was clear of Ryan Carter's machine going into the braking zone for the chicane there. Tried to maybe move over just an inch or two and found the right fender of Ryan Carter still there. As we look at Morgan Burkhardt right now, we said it was going to be kind of difficult for him starting in 7th to work his way through the field. Again, he made up a couple positions on the very first lap. He is sitting in 4th right now behind our pole sitter Josh Soto, but you can see our top 2 drivers, Eben and Patry, have started to separate themselves out just a little bit. As we look a little bit further back in the pack, Lewis Lockshine, who had a great battle last week with Wan Lin. Lockshine in that orange and white number 124 machine being attacked by Jeff Barlow in the number 34. I think that's a name we haven't talked about much here on the Ray Esports Racing League here in Season 4, as Barlow is trying to use every bit of the apex curbing and maybe even a little grass to get an advantage over Lockshine.
Yeah, still looking pretty smooth there with Barlow, so he's definitely right on the back of that Lewis Lockshine machine. And I tell you what, both of them there trying to stay, nose to tail as good as, as best they can, Greg, because they can run up on that 09 of Jordy Fike.
Yeah, and you can see there as the 34 of Barlow gets all of the sausage curbing going through the chicane there, and it really gets the car out of sorts, and you can see you lost a lot of ground to the 124 machine just through that complex. The challenge that you have here, Brian, as we look at, and this will serve as my example, is going down through the downhill right now, as we have Giancarlo Schooler along with the 77 of San Inocencio, that because this track is so narrow, here, if you have a lot of side-by-side racing, it really obviously will give the opportunity for a car behind you to pull right up, although there's nowhere for them to go for the most part. It will also serve to separate you out from the cars ahead, just simply because a lot of these turn complexes really are one-lane affairs. And you can see here that little bit of a battle between Giancarlo and Michael really dropped them back from the 013 of Remy Esperance and Jeff Barlow there.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Greg. Especially in a car like this, right, where even though we're kind of on the short track of road course racing, there is still some aero here, so you're going to get right up on the back of the bumper, and you're not going to be able to go anywhere, and so it's going to cause confusion, and it's going to cause a little bit of trying to get through there as best you can without having any type of contact.
Yeah, and obviously here the Sam Posey straight, front straight here at Lime Rock, the one key passing opportunity that you have going in the Big Bend. You do have the effect of the draft in these Mazdas going down the straight, and then it's a question of, how do you best negotiate that turn? Can you get on the binders maybe a little bit earlier, and then of course not deal with like terminal push going through the left-hander and then through the right-hander here, as it looks like the 21 machine has pulled off. That was Ryan Carter who had his incident earlier, and he, again, basically just pulled off the track to let cars by. Oh, and you can see Remy Esperance getting together. Was that with Giancarlo Schooler going up through the chicane?
That it was. Yep.
Oh, and
see the replay here. Looks like Remy came off that curbing, ran right into him. We saw that earlier in that little dip right there. There is a drainage ditch there that will send you airborne.
That's right, and looks like the 221 machine of Vaccaro having some troubles negotiating that as well. It looks like Schooler maybe not the worse for wear, as he's still trying to make his way back up. But here we go. This is the battle for second right now, Brian. So let's jump to the front of the field here, as we've got Caleb Patry under attack by our pole sitter Josh Soto, and you can see that Morgan Burkhardt is not all that far behind. He's only about a car length and a half back, certainly within the draft, and Brennan Horan is right up there as well. And again, remember, Horan currently sitting third in the championship, just I believe 12 points back from Burkhardt right now, as Soto drops a wheel coming through the downhill.
Yeah, so we're going to look back here at one of the replays that we have with Remy Esperance, and it looks like that's going to be the 77 there of Santinelli. Oh, yeah, and then
Yeah, San Inocencio.
Yeah, Inocencio. Yep.
Oof, and they went through going through the left-hander there, got together and spun around, and again, you know, there's certainly, as we saw in the front straight, there's certainly enough width here for cars to go side by side. The problem is that everything funnels down to some rather tight turns, and makes it difficult. And you saw there going through the left-hander turn 3 that it just wasn't going to work for them. As we jump back to Caleb Patry in the battle for second, with Soto, Burkhardt, and Brennan Horn very close behind, and we'll see here if Burkhardt and Horn can maybe draft back up to this pack of 2. But certainly, I think the big story, Brian, is again looking at Cam Eben in that 55 car. He's really started to walk away from the rest of the field here.
Yeah, almost 3.5 second lead over Caleb Patry and Joshua Soto. You know, for that second and third position. So, you know, we talked about it earlier on. He's definitely, you know, understands this track, and he's been one of the smoothest out there. Once he got out in front, it was just set sail from there.
Yeah, I mean, he gets that car to rotate like none of our other drivers seem to, and just a very, very smooth event so far for him, as we're just about halfway through our 20-minute sprint race here for the Mazda MX-5s at Lime Rock Park, running the GP circuit, which is essentially the classic course, but with this little chicane thrown in for good measure. Definitely slows things down, gives you maybe another passing opportunity, although it looks like from what we've seen so far, Brian, the only passing has happened not from the front 2 cars going side by side, but from the trailing cars as the first 2 get together and go flying off course.
Yeah, it looks like the only way you're going to pass somebody there is by using the bumper against the rear, or the front bumper against the rear bumper, and that's really not good either. So as we go on board here with Joshua Soto trying to get up there with Caleb Patry there, looks like Soto may be, as I just say that now, I was going to say he just looks like he wants to just sit in line there, but then pulls back out. But Caleb Patry had the preferred line going in there into that chicane, Greg, as they go up the hill now. So Joshua Soto trying to figure out where he wants to make that move, but then he's got to be careful, because then you got Brendan Horan and Morgan Burkhardt right behind him.
Yeah, and you know, for a moment there, it looked like Soto was making taking an eye to the back of Caleb Patry. Might have tried to make a move coming out of the uphill, going through West Bend, but the run between those 2 sections are still very short. But now Soto all over Caleb Patry. He sets up, takes a traditional entry into Big Bend, and Patry, though, is able to come across the cover. But you can see here, not only do we have Burkhardt and Brennan Horn in this battle as well, we now have Kevin Langer. Remember, Langer started I believe, second, and is currently sitting in 6th position in that black number 17 machine. Or probably not black, but the white number 17 machine. So it is right now a 5-car battle for 2nd place here.
Yeah, Kevin Langer may be the person in the best seat to watch those races going on ahead of him with Patry, Soto, Burkhardt, and Horan. So we'll have to see what he does there. As we drop back a little bit further here, here's the 27 of Andre Jameson. Oh,
not
and
anymore.
Vaccaro and
all right, there you go. And that was Vaccaro and Andre Jameson getting together. It looked like maybe a case there where Andre Jameson actually literally drove through the 221 machine. But it was a little 4-car battle there building up. Now only 2 as we jump back again to this battle for second. And Soto getting, that is, coming out of that last incident, the number 27 machine of Jameson. He's steering clear of our leaders, letting them by. And now look at this side-by-side, Brendan Horn and Morgan Burkhardt going into the chicane. as Horn had to take to the grass on the inside there. Maybe he didn't have to, but maybe he thought it was a better way to pass. I don't know. But he's lost a little bit of ground now to Morgan Burkhardt, and now we've got Langer all over his bumper, and it's given Burkhardt a little bit of an opportunity to breathe here, at least for the moment, as they come onto the Posey Straight.
Yeah, it gives a little bit of a break, Greg. One of the things I want to talk about real quickly as we continue to watch this race now, our leaders are going to start to come up on lap traffic or vehicles that have had some issues here during this race. With about 6.5 minutes left to go, that is where you're going to have to figure out how you not only are going to be able to get past the guy in front of you, but now you've got to get that lap car as well, and you don't want to get him in a bad spot.
That's right. And so in that last exchange going down the front straight, Kevin Langer did get around Brennan Horn. And speaking of which, right now they're coming up on Gary Winters, the 0-2 car currently running 23rd. And so it wasn't much of a big deal for Cam Eben, our leader, to make it through. But then when you've got 3 or 4 or 5 cars, Brian, all in a row in a little draft train, obviously you want to try and get up on this lower traffic in just the right place. The 0-2 car, he moves all the way to the inside, and I mean, certainly let them by, that downhill, though. If you're pushed very wide of that apex, it can be a real challenge as it's downhill, it's off camber, kind of like Hogpen at VIR, except a heck of a lot faster to make it stick, stay on the curbing there, and not run off into the grass. But it looks like they all managed to get by that 0-2 car without a problem. As we look a little bit further back, this is the battle for 8th right now with Jordy Fike in the Team Esport Racer, the 09 machine, with Lewis Lockshine in the 124. And I think a number of seconds back from there is Giancarlo Schooler, who I think on the last lap we saw him doing the Drift King impression there as we jump back up towards the front.
Yeah, we got you've got the 17 of Kevin Langer and the 28 there, Brendan Horan. I'll tell you what, those two somewhat have been going at it. You remember Horan was up there with Morgan Burkhardt, and he's able to get away there a little bit. Morgan maybe having a little bit of technical issue there. It's all blinking in and out, so that could be weighing a little bit havoc on Kevin Langer too as they go down into turns 1 and 2 into that big bend through there.
Yeah, and so probably some issues there from Burkhardt as he ran wide coming through the downhill. Might have lost a little bit of the ground that he had made over both Langer and Horan. But let's continue to watch this because Soto continues to just haunt the 198 of Caleb Patry, but just can't find a way by. We always say that, getting up to somebody, typically, Brian, is easy. Making the pass is hard. And it's just exacerbated here at Lime Rock because there are so few places to do it. Probably the best opportunity that they have is going to be coming down here through the downhill and onto the Sam Posey Straight. Now, we are sitting on board right now with Brennan Horn. He's looking at the back end of the number 17 machine. He's not quite close enough to draft up alongside, and he's going to have to follow the 17 through. Again, giving Morgan Burkhardt maybe a little bit of clearance and a little bit of coverage there as he tries to work his way back up to that battle for second.
Yeah, I mean, it's go time now, all right? I mean, we're coming up on about 3 minutes left to go, and I can tell you that Joshua Soto is probably trying to figure out where Caleb Patry is going to make a mistake. He's got to stay in his mirror as much as possible there and not let him get too far away. Just like you said last time by, as they're starting to come down the hill here, going through the through that last turn and then back up onto the Sam Posey Straight here any minute. I'll tell you what, that's where he's going to have to make his move. He did it a couple times before, a couple laps before, but wasn't able to make that pass. So he could be trying to take care of some tires right now. We're starting to lose the tires, starting to lose a little bit of the brakes, and the setups are starting to go away.
That's right. And so with just a touch under 3 minutes remaining, again, we're watching the battle for second right now. Cam Eben, who hasn't gotten any airtime tonight for the most part because, he's been... he's not driving by his lonesome. He's trying to work his way through some of our slower traffic. But we should have this lap and likely 2 more laps to go, depending on whether he gets held up all that much more. Now, Brian, going back to that battle for second with Patry and the 07 of Soto, and there, I want to thank Dennis Branch. He came back to us right at the right time. We've seen Patry take that sausage curbing in the chicane almost every single time, and it hasn't hurt him all that much until this time. He had been taking the sausage curbing on the second turn of that chicane. This time he took it on the first and second, and it gave the 07 of Soto the run that he needed coming out of the chicane, going up to West Bend to take over second place. But now as they come down into Big Bend, Patry from the outside noses up on the 07 car, and he's got position going into the left-hander. And there you go, as quickly as Josh Soto had taken over control of second place, he relinquishes it back to the 198 of Caleb Patry. That has also brought Morgan Burkhardt, it has brought Kevin Langer, and it has brought Brendan Horan right back into this battle now as the 28 of Horan. He tries to make that move for the second time tonight, going all the way down the inside, trying to get around the 17 machine, and he ends up losing a lot of that ground. So no longer a 5-car battle for second, back to a 4-car battle.
Yeah, it looks like last time by there, Soto got on the brakes just a little bit sooner than Patry, and Patry was able to go to the outside around 1 and 2, which, like you said, Greg, brought Morgan Burkhardt and Kevin Langer back in. And here we go again. Now it looks like Joshua Soto's going to try to do it on the outside, but when you make those two double moves right there, that's just not going to sit well with the car. The car's not going to sit well, and now he's way off the grass there. Yep.
Yeah. And it didn't sit on the track for that matter. Yeah, you're going to lose a lot of momentum when you have to make all of those adjustments. Patry had his car perfectly placed going down the Posey Straight in the Big Bend. He was able to hold the 07 car off, and you could see there that, as Soto was trying to, Soto goes around going into the chicane. I don't know, he might have gotten tapped by Morgan Burkhardt as Burkhardt now drops back as well. And there just might have been a tap there. And, Brian, this might be something. Talk about timing here is Cam Evans. He comes out of the downhill. He's going to cross the straight. Cam Evans is going to take the win much further back. Let's take a look here as it is the 198 of Caleb Patry. He is going to take home second, and moving up to third on the very last lap, Kevin Langer in the number 17 machine comes home on the last step of the podium. Brendan Horan will finish in fourth. And I was going to say, Brian, that with Soto going around and with Burkhardt going around, that has opened up the opportunity for Brendan Horan now to really move up in the point standings. So let's take a look at it. Eben, Patry, Langer, Horan, Kyle Vallejos in the number 35 machine. Hadn't talked about him almost all night. He comes home in fifth place, making up 3 positions. He started 8th. Jordy Fike will come home in 6th. He started 10th. Lewis Lockshine started 11th. He finishes in 7th. Giancarlo Schooler only makes it up to 8th place. Schooler had started in 3rd place on the inside of the second row, so I'm sure not the finish he wanted. Peter Rolfe will finish in 9th. Steven Vrooman picks up 10 positions. Congratulations, Stevens, and he finishes in 10th position. Great run there for Steven Vrooman, picking up 10 positions. Suresh Pradham, 11th. John Casey, Michael San Inocencio, Pax Rolfe, Jeff Barlow, Greg Brockway, Remy Esperance. Josh Soto is going to bring his car home in 18th position. And I believe back from there, we'll have to see exactly where Morgan Burkhardt finishes up, but certainly right around, let's see if he dropped out of the session. It looks like I'm showing him his 24th position. Actually, it gets a little bit different what we've got here, but I think he checked out of the session, which would have dropped him back down towards the very end of the field. So not what Morgan Burkhardt, who was sitting in the catbird seat in the championship, wanted to see. So tell you what, Brian, why don't we first bring in Caleb Patry? He finishes second tonight in the MX-5s, and then we'll get to our winner, Cam Eben.
Yeah.
Caleb Patry, congratulations finishing second here. I tell you what a battle you had with Joshua Soto the entire night. Talk about that. Talk about this race right here.
Certainly, it was an intense race there with Josh. I knew I couldn't shake him with draft, and he was especially quick out at some of the right-hand turns, so I really had to dig hard and defend where I could, and thankfully it kind of worked out in the end. We went side by side. He ended up passing me, and then thankfully I was able to get around him again. But yeah, it was a really fun race. Couldn't really do anything about Cam just running away, but very happy with the second after battling that whole race.
Well, I'll tell you what, it was a great sight to watch there between you and Joshua. I tell you what, so again, congratulations on that second place, and that's actually going to help you in the points. Who do you like to thank tonight?
Certainly Steve Ray and everybody else who puts these events on. You guys for the broadcast, Team All Sports for their support, and my parents, again, for their support, watching each and every week.
All right. Well, again, Caleb Patry finishing second here at Lime Rock. Greg, send it back over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Brian. That was Caleb Patry, driver of the 198 All Sports Racing Machine. And so next, let's bring in for the first time, I think, this season, Cam Eben, our winner tonight in the Mazda MX-5s.
Cam Eben, congratulations on your win here at Lime Rock. I got one word for you, buddy. Domination, because that was just unbelievable. You just ran away and hid. Talk about this race and talk about what you had to do in order to make that domination happen.
Yeah, I mean, they got to fighting behind me, so it made it pretty easy. But at the start, just Josh was a little slow off the pole on the inside, and Kevin just kind of faded left. So I just took it up the middle and was able to get clear to the lead. And everyone else was having some troubles on cold tires, and I felt like I got a good couple laps at the beginning to start it off. And once they got racy, it just allowed me to pull out a gap. So, yeah.
Well, I tell you what, congratulations. And I think that's kind of, from all year long so far when we're watching these, this has probably been the biggest lead that I think anybody had. So who do you like to thank tonight for this race?
Well, obviously my racing team, Delta Sport, and Caleb Patry and Morgan Burkhart, as well as Giancarlo Schooler for all the help, made this race possible and just helping me along during the race. So, yeah, that's about it. And you guys for the broadcast.
All right. Well, we appreciate that, Cam. Good run. Congratulations again, winning here at Lime Rock. Greg, send it over to you.
All right, there you go. Cam Eben, your winner tonight in Mazda MX-5, driving the number 55 Delta Sport machine. And so, Brian, what we're going to do, we're going to get ready because the racing is not done here from Lime Rock. We're going to have our Spec Racer Ford race up here in just a few moments. But before we jump away and thank our sponsors, I want to remind everybody, if you like what you see, if you like the racing here in the Esports Racing League, if you like everything that our great producer Dennis Branch is serving up for you tonight, go ahead and click on that big thumbs up button. And if you haven't done so already, go ahead and subscribe to Apex Racing TV. Click on the notification bell so you can find out about all the great virtual motorsports activities and action around the world, seemingly 24/7 from Apex Racing. And of course, you can find out more about Apex Racing TV and all its offerings on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. All you got to do is search for one word, Apex Racing TV. And so with that, we are going to take a quick break and thank some sponsors. And when we come back, we're going to be back with our Spec Racer Fords, another 20-minute sprint to the checker here at Lime Rock Park on Season 4 of the Ray Esports Racing League. We'll be right back.
Virtual Racing School was developed to provide support to the next generation of sim racers. No matter if you're a rookie or veteran or what car or track you'll be racing, our goal is to provide training every step of the way. We found that iRacing can be quite difficult without proper training. There needed to be a way to prepare for on-track racing. With VRS, you can literally learn from the best sim racers in the world, including 4-time NASCAR iRacing World Champion Ray Alfala.
And Ray Alfala is a 4-time champion of the NASCAR Peak Freeze iRacing Series.
3-time iRacing Grand Prix World Champion Martin Kroenke.
Martin Kroenke becomes a 3-time world champion.
Rallycross World Champion Mitchell de Jong.
Mitchell de Jong is now champion for the iRacing Rallycross World Championship Series.
And many other top sim racers. Data packs include everything you need to start learning. Our World Championship coaches create the data packs by setting a hot lap or a series of fast laps for you to compare, analyze, and replicate. Data packs also include a tutorial where the coach points out techniques they use to hit the fast lap. This gives you access to the latest driving techniques and setups before you even hit the track. Sign up for a free account and download the VRS telemetry logger. With this application running seamlessly in the background, your laps automatically start syncing to the VRS website. From there, you can analyze and compare 2 laps of your choice, whether it's your data, the coaches, or your teammates. VRS will automatically target improvement opportunities so you can get up to speed even faster. VRS also makes it easy for you to request and schedule one-on-one or group coaching sessions. These sessions can range from 30 to 90 minutes, and you can select the car, track, and setup combination of your choice. Visit virtualracingschool.com today to sign up and get started.
All right, and we are back here at beautiful Lime Rock Park in the state of Connecticut, and I'm Greg Ginsburg. I've got Brian Donati with me, and of course, we've got Dennis Branch bringing you all the great views here for Apex Racing TV. We just watched a spectacular crash fest in the Mazda MX-5s, where you had Cam Evan taking his very first win here in the Esports Racing League, Caleb Patry finishing second, and Kevin Langer, I believe his first time on the podium as well. He finished third tonight in the MX-5s. But next up, we've got the Spec Racer Fords. They're out for qualifying right now. We're about 6 minutes into qualifying, and we'll catch up with them in just a few moments here. But let's first talk about the one class in the Esports Racing League that is not here at Lime Rock this evening, and that is the RE2s. The USF 2000 cars is what they're racing, and we had a very good battle, Brian, last week at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca, and I don't think any of our drivers really anticipated the weather conditions at Laguna Seca. It was very cloudy. It was very, very humid. If iRacing had rain, I guarantee you it would have been raining, because it was like 98% humidity or something along those lines. And the track temps were quite a bit higher, I think, than most of the people had anticipated coming in. And so a lot of the drivers had the rear tires going away on them towards the end of that 20-minute sprint. And it was a battle. It was really a 2-car battle between Caleb Patry and Morgan Burkhardt. And you could just tell with like 2 laps to go that Burkhardt had no rear tires left to go on that car. And it would have been a 3-car battle, I would think, but Jamison Huffman, who started on the front row, spun the car in turn 3 on the second lap and was just never able to recover. He actually, well, he did recover, but didn't make his way back up to the podium. So Caleb Patry took the win, margin of victory about 1 second over Morgan Burkhardt. Zach Burke, 7 seconds in arrears of Burkhardt, finished on the last step of the podium, then Jamison Huffman, then Jordy Fike. So let's quickly take a look at the points here, and you'll see here Caleb Patry, and he picked up 2 points for driving clean. He is currently your champion, or not your champion, but he's your leader in the championship with 68 points, quite a bit ahead of Jamison Huffman. John Wilson currently sitting third in the points right now based on his finish 2 weeks ago at Road Atlanta. Morgan Burkhardt moved up 3 positions. He is now sitting in fourth with Zach Burke sitting fifth in the championship. And let's look quickly now over, and we'll jump back to the Spec Racer Fords and look at the current state of things in SRF, where we had it wasn't last week, but it was 2 weeks ago at Road Atlanta. We talked about this, I think, last week. Absolutely amazing. 4 cars on the very last lap going down into turn 10A at Road Atlanta. 3 of them abreast of one another. We had Patry to the inside. We had Burkhardt in the center of the track, and we had the driver who had been our leader, Jamison Huffman, driver's right. Burkhardt and Patry got together. Huffman went to turned in very late and tried to avoid that mess. And then John Vogel, who was sitting in fourth, followed all 3 of those cars down into turn 10A. He passed Huffman coming under the bridge on the very last lap and took the win. Absolutely amazing finish there for John Vogel. And so let's take a look at the championship points right now. In Spec Racer Ford, Caleb Patry is currently your points leader with Morgan Burkhardt only 7 points back. John Vogel, based on that finish at Road Atlanta, moved up 9 positions in the championship. He is currently sitting third with Jordy Fike, and Mark Santana tied for fourth in the championship. And obviously, we can't wait to see after 9 weeks who is going to take home the championships in each one of these 3 classes. But Brian, one of the things that we're also looking forward to is the handing down and handing out of the Season 4 Excellent Driver Awards for each one of our 3 classes this season in the Ray Esports Racing League. And it is an award and a trophy handed out to the driver who competes in 5 of 6 rounds and who amasses the least number of iRacing incident points. And at least an MX-5, Brian, I think that you, me, and Dennis Branch might be in the running for for the award right now, because I can't imagine any one of our drivers actually made it through that race. Made it through that race clean. Of course, it says you have to compete in 5 of 6 rounds, and I don't know if you count what we do as competing.
Well, I have a point because I just ran into my desk when I went to sit back down, so I have a point. So I'm not in running now.
All right. So you're out of the fight. It's just me and Dennis, and of course we want to thank the great folks at the Esports Driving Club. They're providing these trophies and putting up this award for each one of our 3 classes this season. So thanks to them. So Brian, as we've got just about 4 minutes remaining here in qualifying, our provisional pole sitter is Wanchi Lin, fast time 58:02, and actually, to be more exact, 58:024. That is 41 thousandths of a second up on Caleb Patry in the number 198 machine. Morgan Burkhardt, third fastest at the moment. He has a fast lap of 58.24 in the books. And I think the big question that we had earlier was whether or not Jamison Huffman was going to be able to make the field. Of course, again, going into the very last lap, he was leading at Road Atlanta 2 weeks ago. But my understanding is that he had some commitments, and he likely has not made his way to his sim rig. So we'll have to see if he joins late in qualifying here. But so far, very, very close running. If we take a look and run down the field here, Brian, we've got our top 8 entries are all in the 58s. So less than a second separating them. It's not till you get to Charles Vaccaro, currently sitting 9th. So you have our first driver in the 59 second range, and he's running a 59 flat. And it's 9th through 14th or 15th in that 59 range. So again, very, very close running. But that's the thing here, at Lime Rock that because the short number of corners, as long as you just don't completely botch things up in one of the corners, you're not going to be that far off the competitor in front of you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we talked about this earlier on when we were watching the MX-5s, and we talked about the chicane. It's going to be interesting to see these Spec Racer Ford getting through, these SRFs getting through that chicane with those big sausage, divots, as I like to call them, because they hit there. We saw the MX-5 Cups getting up on 2 wheels. These things could end up being where these guys are going to need pilot license if they don't.
Yeah, exactly. They may find themselves flying over the Armco. Now the other part of that, and as you talk about the chicane, very interesting that you should mention this, is in looking over what some of the drivers were talking about in some of the practice sessions that they were running earlier in the week. And I was doing a little bit of running in the Spec Racer Ford because the iRacing official Spec Racer Ford League, their week 1 schedule was here at Lime Rock in this configuration. Is you have to deal in many cases, whoa, we just saw somebody get the chicane wrong and come flying across the chicane. You have to deal with the possibility of liftoff oversteer in these rear-engined Spec Racer Fords. That they have a much lighter engine than the older spec of these cars. They're now running the aluminum block 1.6 liter motors versus an old iron block Ford Escort 1.9 liter motors that were much, much heavier. And so the liftoff oversteer is not as pronounced, but everybody was talking about as they would transition from the brake back to the gas turning in here at the chicane, that the rear end would just walk around on them and they could not get into the chicane very easily. And there's an example right there as we watch Andrew Wozencroft. And I think that's probably going to be the story of the race. And Brian, even if it's not with our drivers at the front of the pack, if we have enough other racers going off there, it could really create a huge bottleneck at that portion of the track.
Yeah, especially early on in the race, right? When we get into our first or second lap, guys are still bunched up together there. It's going to be interesting that, absolutely. Tires are still, at a minimum grip level there. And it's going to take one car, whether to get a little tap from the rear or get hard on the brakes too quickly. And it could send, a good half a dozen to a dozen of these cars scurrying around trying to get through there, Craig. So it's going to be interesting to see. We saw it earlier on, too.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we saw it in the MX-5 race. You have 2 or 3, you have 4 cars together. All it takes is one in a group of 4 to go off, and it will cause 100% track blockage. So we'll have to see here as qualifying. The checkered flag is out. All the last flying laps here will count, as it looked like we had one of our drivers call it off on the last lap. One of our Team Esport Racer drivers, Peter Rolfe, calling it off. I think not by his choosing, but he went around. But a few last drivers on their flying lap, seeing if they can beat Wan Shi Lin's 58.024. That is about 42 hundredths of a second up on Caleb Patry with Morgan Burkhardt. We're watching Jordy Fike coming out of the downhill right now. He's the second car in line there. Let's see if he can move up and better that 9th position that he held coming into his final lap. And I don't think he has. And maybe the biggest surprise of all, Brian, is Cam Eben, who was, I believe, the driver right ahead of Jordy Fike coming out of the downhill. He's going to start all the way back in 13th position. So going to be a little bit different for him in the Spec Racer Fords than what he just experienced in the Mazda MX-5s. All right, so we should have our starting grid here in just a brief moment, and here it comes. Let's bring it on up, starting on the pole here in Spec Racer Ford with a time of 58.024. Driving the Revolution Sim Racing number 30, it's Wan Shi Lin. Caleb Patry in the All Sports Racing number 198 machine will start right next to him on the outside of row number 1. Morgan Burkhardt in his number 40 machine will line up next to his teammate, John Carlos Schooler, in the 111. John Vogel, our winner at Road Atlanta, will start on the inside of row number 3 with Brennan Horn right next to him. Mark Santana will start 7th in the 222 machine with Charles Vaccaro in the 221 machine, starting in 8th. Jordy Fike will start 9th in the 09 machine. Ryan Carter will start in 10th. Peter Rolfe will start on the inside of row number 6, with John Wilson starting right beside him. In the number, Wilson is starting in the number 82 car. Then we have Cam Eben, again, our winner from race number 1 in the number 55 machine. He will start 13th, with Andrew Wozencross starting on the outside of row number 7 in the number 80 machine. Then we've got Mike Key. He's starting 15th in the 998 machine, with Pax Rolfe starting in the number 18 car. He's going to be 16th. Then we've got Carl Burke in the number 45, John Casey in the 78, Joaquin Effinger, and Mark Sherman. And I believe that will round out your field of 20 cars. And as our drivers are now on their pace lap, Brian, let's go and talk quickly about our sponsor for tonight's second race of the evening, and that is Spec Racer Sports. Their mission is to help fuel and support your addiction to road racing. They feel that the way to accomplish this is by providing exceptional customer support, the parts, the services that you need when you need them at a fair, competitive price. Spec Racer Sports currently stables Spec Racer Fords and offers rental cars that are exceptionally prepared. They're located trackside at Motorsports Ranch Houston, with access to the track for a rental or a test drive that can be easily arranged. In addition to new car sales, storage, and support, a complete complement of technical services such as chassis dyno work, driver coaching, and fabrication are offered at very competitive rates. To find out more about Spec Racer Sports and their services, head on over to specracersports.com. All right, so Brian, we got done with that a little bit earlier than we did with the MX-5s. We've got a little bit of time to breathe as the pace car brings the field down the downhill, with Juan Chi-Lin, your pole sitter, Caleb Patry right beside him. As they come onto the Sam Posey straight, they will be getting that green flag here momentarily as the Porsche 911 pace car breaks to the pit lane. So our pole sitter, Juan Chi-Lin, has the field as they come down, watching that starter stand to see when the green flag comes out, and out it comes, racing here from Lime Rock Park, as we have the Spec Racer Fords, and Caleb Patry cuts right across the nose of our pole sitter. He's going to take over the lead as Juan Chi-Lin drops in the second. Then we've got Giancarlo Schooler, in the 111 car. He is sitting in third. Now, side by side, we've got Burkhardt and John Vogel. Again, they were part of that battle at Road Atlanta 2 weeks ago. And right behind them, we've got Brennan Horn in the 16 machine, Charles Vaccaro, and Mark Santana. But look at this, side by side going down into the chicane, and Caleb Patry is going to make it in the lead. But we've got the 16 car going around. That was Brennan Horn. He's going to drop all the way to the tail end of the field. And it looks like there's another car involved there as well. I thought it looks like Charles Vaccaro might have put his car around going into the chicane as well.
As well as Pax Rolfe did too. So it looks like all three of them. Looks like Brendan Horn got a little tagged on the back end. We got some more coming out of the last turn there, Greg, going through. Let's see. And we still got some more carnage.
Yeah, we've got a lot of carnage. It looks like Carter was the first one off in that red, white, and blue number 21. We've got the 998 car has gone off. That's Mike Key. I think that's Jordy Fike sitting there over in the grass with him as well in the 09 machine. A lot of damage there. So big stretch of the field here. You can see we've got a 5-car breakaway at the front. Patry, Lynn, Giancarlo Schooler, Burkhardt, and then John Vogel, and then it is a very, very long way. Oh, and it looks like Giancarlo Schooler goes bouncing off through the grass as he goes into the chicane, and he's gonna have to rejoin, but he's gonna lose a lot of ground there. We'll see if we're gonna say Rolfe, Santana, Wilson, Joaquin Effinger, all in that next pack. A long way back, but maybe making up a little bit of ground here as we've got now side by side Vogel and Burkhardt coming through the downhill.
Yeah, they started to go through there. John Carlos got in there a little bit hot into the chicane there, had nowhere to go, had to stay straight on that, go up over the hill, and then come back out behind this grouping here. As we'll take a look at it here on the replay. Well, this may be the opening going down through the front stretch
downhill
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, through the downhill. Yeah, it just looks like guys just not knowing they were there. One of them was Cam Eben. I know he was involved in it right there.
Oof, yeah.
Getting into that. So pretty big hits.
Yeah, there's that blue and white 55. I didn't even see him in the as that started off, but he and Carter had gotten together coming down the downhill, and yeah, about 5 different cars, all part of that big melee finishing up lap number 1 as we jump back over now to this is the battle for third with Morgan Burkhardt and John Vogel. And you can see our 2 leaders have moved quite a bit ahead as Wanchi Lin and Caleb Patry were side by side coming down into Big Bend. And we've got Wanchi Lin to the outside. We've got Patry to the inside. And it looks like Patry was working this quite a bit just a race ago with Josh Soto. But at least for the moment now, Wanchi Lin takes over the lead. Patry drops back to second. Burkhardt still trying to hold off John Vogel as those 2 drivers now have dropped back almost half the length of the no-name straight. And look at this. Making his way back up, Peter Rolfe, who had been part of that, what was at the time the second pack, he is now in it with Giancarlo Schooler battling it out for 5th position.
Yeah, it looks like Morgan Burkhardt, John Vogel came up. The reason that gap has got up there, they came up onto Carl Burke there in the 45 machine and didn't really have a chance to get around him very cleanly. So look for those 2 to probably just stay in line. Those are 2 veteran drivers. John Vogel actually in a real SRF. Knows and understands the limitations of these. Look for them 2 to stay nose to tail to try to catch Caleb Patry and Wanchi Lin. Not the first time this year we've seen Wanchi Lin and Caleb Patry battling it out for the lead early on in the race. We had them both at Barber at the very beginning when Wanchi Lin was on the pole for that race as well. So another good run here by Wanchi Lin, now leading over Caleb Patry as they start to come up through the chicane. And both of those 2 cars right now so far today, Greg, they've been the smoothest to get through there. So we'll see as this race goes on, and we'll see whether or not when tires and or the setups start to go away, how smooth they really are.
Tires, setups, brains.
Yeah.
You name it.
Get a cramp in the hand.
That's right. That's right. All right, as we take a look here, that's Mark Santana, who had a very good finish also at Road Atlanta 2 weeks ago. And Santana currently running 7th. That is where he started. And he's right back behind Peter Rolfe. And great, didn't mention Rolfe made up 5 positions on the start of this race. So, again, with, a little bit of the carnage and destruction at the front of the field certainly aided that, but good start for him as we continue to watch this battle for 3rd place right now with Burkhardt, and that was a neat little view there as Burkhardt went bounding over the apex curbing on the right-hander to just see how that car kind of soaked that up as we've got more cars left and right over at the chicane there. Looks like the 18 machine of Pax Rolfe, and I think there was another car sitting driver's left as well. But you never know what you're going to find there. Well,
there's the 82 going. He's going the wrong way. He's going backwards. That's John Wilson.
That's John Wilson.
We'll look at the Pax Rolfe here as he comes in down through the chicane there. And it just looks like, yep, just got on the brakes just a little bit too hard and got spun around there.
Yeah, and when you transition from the brake back to the throttle, and all the weight transitions from the back of the car back onto the nose, basically everything just loops around on you. So very common with these cars as we continue to watch this battle, this is going to be neat to watch here, Brian, because the entire last race, we saw Caleb Patry working to hold off Josh Soto, and very different having to defend on a very tight track. Will be neat to see what Patry tries to pull out of his toolbox here to try and get around the number 30 car.
Yeah, they're going to look like they're going to go side by side now here. It looks like Patry's probably going to have the preferred line going in, but may look to see a crossover here as we come out of turns 1 and 2 by Wanchi Lin. But Patry just a little bit faster there. And we've been talking about this all season long, Greg. Caleb Patry gets really fast in certain parts of the racetracks and then is able to come back as it looks like John Vogel going off there, coming out of 1 and 2, and then he gets into Giancarlo Schooler coming out of there as well. So yeah, just a little hot getting into turn 1 there for John Vogel. He goes off, and as he starts to come back on, evidently didn't see the flagman there waiting to say, hey, there's another car coming at you. And Schooler didn't see him as well. So it's unfortunate for both of them.
Yeah, so that's going to move. Well, Schooler still actually manages to keep the car running, and he is now sitting in 4th. Vogel dropping back into 6th position. So some changes there. And of course, Giancarlo Schooler, the car with no markings on it. Now we see Wan Chi Lin trying to come underneath Caleb Patry going into Big Bend. And let's see if he can make up enough ground and cut across the nose of the 198. He does. And I think also, Brian, and I think we're seeing this more in the Spec Racer Fords than we saw it in the MX-5s earlier tonight, is, as long as you can keep the nose buried under the ducktail rear of the car in front of you coming out of the downhill and onto the front straight, you definitely can use the draft and kind of slingshot to the inside, and there's not much you can do about it. The front straight here at Lime Rock is rather wide as opposed to the rest of the track surface here.
Right.
And and then it's just a question of, can you position the car and defend? That looks like, I think that was Giancarlo Schooler in the 111 car as he looped it going into the chicane. That allows Ryan Carter and Peter Rolfe to get around. Let's take a look at the replay here as we've got an isolation on the 111 car as he comes down to the end of the no-name straight. And this one, it looks like maybe he just gave this one. Maybe he did just give it a little bit too much throttle there going through. He'd actually made it almost all the way up the hill there before the rear end started to walk on him.
Yeah, it looked, in some of these, as the cars start to go away, and I know we're not even halfway through here, Greg, but some of these cars and these setups are starting to go away a little bit too quickly. You've almost got to use the old egg theory. So you have the egg theory when you're getting on the gas, on the throttle. You want to ease into the throttle in some of these turns. You almost want to do the same thing with the brake. You don't want to go in and stab the brake, turn the car to the right to try to get through the chicane. You've got to ease into that brake. If not, and there's another one right there with the 21, Ryan Carter, and Santana had nowhere to go but into the back of him. You almost have to just ease into the brake and let the car settle itself. If you stab it too hard, that back end's going to just come right around.
Oh, here's a big, Wan Chi Lin, who was running in the lead. Let's take a look here at the replay.
Oh, both of them.
Yeah, looks like Patry coming down the inside, got into the back of our leader, and Wan Chi Lin, he gets the car back out on track, and he does it just ahead of Morgan Burkhardt, but is not able to hold Burkhardt off. And we take a look here at the another shot of that replay from overhead, and there was just nothing Wan Chi Lin could do as Patry came just sliding over the apex there.
Yeah, it looks like both of them got in there kind of hot. We were talking about it just a moment ago. Looks like they both really overdrove that turn going in. There's Caleb Patry there. Wan Chi Lin still holding on to the lead there. And then it looks like that's going to be Caleb Patry in second. So both of them able to collect that. And they had a pretty big gap. But, yeah, Greg, it looks like they just overdrove that corner on both of them. Wan Chi Lin started to slide. Patry really didn't have anywhere to go as Wan Chi Lin was sideways right there in his view.
So now the question is, so when Wan Chi Lin went to recover, he was coming on and Morgan Burkhardt was right behind him as we see Ryan Carter heading into the pits. And now when you look at Morgan Burkhardt, he's quite a bit back from both Lin and Patry, and he's got a whole bunch of damage on the left front. I'm wondering what happened to Burkhardt there to bring him back into the clutches of John Vogel.
Yeah, definitely had some contact somewhere. We'll take a look at it as our man Dennis in the truck's going to tell us.
Asking you shall receive as they come down into the chicane with Burkhardt leading, and Burkhardt got he got the sausage curbing and then straddled the curbing.
Yep. And
then gets the car back underway, but unforced error there from the lead.
Yeah, and now with that damage, Greg, that's actually going to hurt. He has to play defensive here against John Vogel. If not, John Vogel is going to get him because John Vogel has, a cleaner front end there. This aero, even though it is a smaller, tighter track, is going to come into play, especially when you come off down from the downhill and you make that sweeping right-hand turn to go down the San Posey Straight.
All right, so as Burkhardt comes out of the right-hander, he manages to cut across the front of the number 4. He's going to lead the 4 in, but you can see Burkhardt once again trouble with the chicane, and he comes right across John Vogel. Vogel having to take to the grass. Doesn't look like he got a lot of damage there, but John Vogel is going to lose. He's going to lose track position. It looks like. Let's take a look at the replay. Yeah, and Burkhardt he lost pace coming up through there. And there just wasn't anything and anywhere for Vogel to go.
That's a product of how tight this track is. One mistake, somebody in front, and you want to try to get around them to go around because you see that they're making that mistake. Those big old curbing just threw him back off to the right.
And oddly there, Burkhardt able to continue on, holds on to third position, and he's opened up almost a 4-second advantage now over Vogel, who's now under attack from Giancarlo Schooler here at Lime Rock, as we have, about 6.5 minutes remaining in this 20-minute sprint race. So about 7 laps remaining as we jump back to the battle for the lead with Wan Chi Lin and Caleb Patry. Again here, and amazing that they had built up enough of an advantage over the rest of the field, Brian, that as they had that off-track excursion going into Big Bend, that they find themselves back in the lead once again.
It's like sorry, Greg. It's like two pesky stink bugs. They just don't want to go away from each other. They just want to stay there together and run together.
There you go. And so that time the car following was Caleb Patry. He manages to draft up and alongside Wan Chi Lin, and he takes over the lead now here at Lime Rock. And it may just come down to which driver is in second. As Burkhardt goes off and goes wide, that I believe also is coming through Big Bend. But that is going to send him back. Let's take a look at the replay. And there was some slower traffic. Burkhardt had to try and reset there, going down into Big Bend with John Vogel, and just runs out of grip, and unfortunately doesn't run out of tire wall. So that is going to throw Burkhardt now back, and he is in the pits, currently sitting 13th, but certainly not going to help his championship aspirations, as he was second coming into the evening. And before that happened, I was going to say, Brian, that I think it's going to come down to who is sitting second coming down the downhill on the very last lap. The question is, we know that there's enough for you to draft by going into turn 1 into Big Bend. The question is there enough to draft by coming out of the downhill before you get to the start-finish line?
Depending on how close you are, as you talked about, you want to get up underneath that ducktail of that lead car. You could get a nice good slingshot off of there if you're able to stay on the throttle longer than the person in front. So you're right. It's definitely going to come down to who gets through the chicane the best on that last lap, and then who's able to get right through here, through the downhill and through that big sweeping right-hander to come down this front stretch.
All right, as Wan Chi Lin crosses the stripe, we've got just a touch over 4 minutes remaining. So looking at most likely, if they keep up this pace, probably 5 more laps here, or probably about 5 laps. But I think maybe the wild card here, Brian, is, as we can see, our leaders, they are starting to run up on some more traffic. Now, again, with only 20 cars in the field, and we've got a couple that are sitting on the pit lane, so looks like only about 18 cars out on pavement. Certainly not as crowded as we saw in the MX-5 race here, but, you can still run up on this traffic at, in just the wrong places. We'll have to, as Wan Chi Lin manages to get by that spinning car, and I think that was Carl Burke who went off, but Lin lost a ton of momentum trying to avoid that car. And let's take a look at the replay as they come through West Bend. And you can see Wan Chi Lin has to shoot all the way driver's right and loses momentum coming down the hill. And so Caleb Patry now takes over the lead from Wan Chi Lin with 3 minutes remaining here from Lime Rock. But again, still plenty of time. But, Brian, just as I was saying, they're coming up on some slower traffic, and perhaps not where in a spot that perhaps we didn't expect to see a driver going around coming out of West Bend. Yeah,
no, absolutely. I mean, you get up to that lap car of Carl Burke there, and Wanchi Lin had to get hard on the brakes and move over. Took him really way offline and lost his momentum there. But there's not a driver on this racetrack right now that hasn't had an issue or some type of challenge within this race, Greg. So again, this Caleb Patry Wanchi Lin battle that we've seen basically the entire race here so far is going to get even better here. It's we're just about 2.5 minutes left to go here.
All right, and as that time as they cross the stripe, Wanchi Lin had not gotten up to the nose of Caleb Patry, so keep that in the back of your mind. That last time, how far Lin was behind coming out of the downhill, because he was still about, I don't know, maybe a foot or so back from Caleb Patry as they got to the start-finish line. That might tell us a little something. Although, you know, I've seen tons of iRacing finishes here that are essentially 2 wide or 3 wide at the line. So, you know, again, nothing is set in stone yet as Wanchi Lin leads Caleb Patry. Next closest car, John Vogel, almost 20 seconds in arrears as we continue to watch this battle for the win coming out of the downhill onto the Sam Posey straight. When they cross the stripe, they will not have hit that 19-minute mark yet. As we're at 18:50, so white flag most likely next time by, Brian.
Yeah, I think we're going to have about a lap and a half here to go, so it's going to be determining where is Caleb Patry looking to make that move on Wanchi Lin. You know, he's pretty much been able to get up to him pretty much anywhere, but as we talked about before, Caleb Patry really is pretty good in certain parts of these racetracks, and I think today he's he's better at the back half of this racetrack, which would be up here through the chicane and down through West Bend down the hill and through the Sam Posey straight right now.
You know, and you know, it's so different watching Patry run through that chicane in the MX-5s. He was popping over those sausage curbs every single time, and on like the last couple of laps, it actually hurt him. But here, he's almost inch perfect going over that apex curbing. As we could see Wanchi Lin getting very defensive now as they came out of the downhill and onto the Sam Posey Street. Wanchi Lin moved that car driver's right to keep Patry from moving alongside, and it did the job as we are now working the very last lap. The clock eclipses the 20-minute mark, and here we go. One last lap, about 3/4 of a lap here at Lime Rock. And we'll see if Wanchi Lin, if he can use that same strategy once again to hold off the 198 car. Now that time you saw Patry got a little bit of the sausage curb and it actually unsettled the car. He lost maybe a foot or two, and that could be the difference as they come down the downhill. They've got West Bend. They clear West Bend, come down the downhill, and it is now a run to the checkered flag. And you can see Caleb Patry about 3/4 of a car length back as they come onto the Sam Posey straight. And Wanchi Lin, he's not even going to have to make a move. He holds on. He takes the win here at Lime Rock in that number 30 machine. Caleb Patry will finish second, and there's John Vogel, almost 15 seconds back. He comes down the downhill in that number 4 machine. He's not going to repeat as a winner, but he's going to be on the podium nonetheless. John Vogel comes home in 3rd place tonight. John Carlos Schooler in the 111 machine. He is going to come home 4th. Mark Santana, there we go. Santana in the 222 machine. He will finish in 5th. John Wilson will finish in 6th. Right behind him, Charles Vaccaro in the 221. He will come home in 7th. Peter Rolfe, if he can manage to hang on, a big gaggle of cars are coming out of the downhill. Peter Rolfe, he's going to hold on for 8th. John Casey will bring his car home in 9th. That's the number 78 machine. Ryan Carter, after having to retire to the pits, looks like Carter is going to come home in 10th position in the number 21 machine. There he is. And then Mark Sherman finishing behind him in the number 19. So good run there, and a good recovery by Ryan Carter. He started 10th, he finished 10th, but again, after he had that early wreck and had to go to the pits, managed to make up a number of cars. So again, Wanchi Lin in his Revolution Sim Racing machine, our pole sitter tonight, he takes the win. Caleb Patry finishes 2nd. John Vogel will take home the last podium paying position. So let's take a look, Brian, and we have Caleb Patry. So for the 2nd time tonight, Caleb Patry comes home in second place, this time in Spec Racer Ford. Let's talk to him.
Caleb Patry, I tell you what, man, you definitely the bridesmaid this week, as last week you had your sweeps, but you've had two great battles, another one tonight with Wanchi Lin, and I tell you what, it wasn't without incident. Talk about that incident real quick, and then talk about that battle with Wanchi Lin all night.
Yeah, certainly. Wanchi definitely had a lot more speed through a few critical corners on the course where I could close up on him in draft, but he would just kind of pull away again through those two corners. But yeah, kind of going into one, I broke along with him and carried a lot of speed into the corner, and I just saw a lap car parked in the corner in the middle of the track, so that I had to get offline, and that got me all loose, and unfortunately spun the car, and thankfully was able to get back going again without losing too much ground, and we were able to resume our battle. And just kind of like I said, he had the muscle through some very important corners, and I just wasn't able to catch back up and get around him.
Yeah, fantastic run all the way through. So again, congratulations finishing second here. Who do you like to thank tonight for this race?
Oh, well, same as before, everybody who puts this race on, you guys for the broadcast, Team All Sports for their setup, and my parents for their support.
All right. Well, again, Caleb Patry, congratulations here, finishing second in our SRF race here at Lime Rock. Greg, send it back over to you.
All right, thanks so much for Caleb Patry, and 2 podiums in one night, not a bad haul for him. So we're still waiting, haven't seen Wanchi Lin show up, but tell you what, let's bring in John Vogel, driver of the number 4 machine. He had his challenges tonight as well, but finishes on the last step of the podium.
John Vogel, congratulations, taking that last podium spot here at Lime Rock. And I got to tell you what, man, looking at this race, it wasn't without incidents across the board. Talk about this race and talk about what you had to do to not only finish third, but keep this car on the racetrack.
I don't even know, because I didn't. I mean, I was off the racetrack a couple of times, and I don't know. There was no patience gonna work like at Road Atlanta. I mean, Morgan just wanted to go for it, and I don't know, caught some little bit of bad breaks with traffic, but mostly just overdrove the car. And I think when Morgan and I got together in the chicane, I can't be sure, you'd have to ask him, but I think he actually slowed up to let me catch up, which I thought that was a nice gesture. But anyway, so I'm not sure if that didn't help me get to third. But yeah, I just, I've learned from racing and iRacing, just, keep resetting your car and keep driving it. Sometimes good things happen. So anyway.
Well, again, I tell you what, it was a sight to see. There was definitely a lot of stuff going on here tonight here at basically short track racing of road racing, as they say. But again, congratulations, last podium spot here at Lime Rock. Who do you like to thank tonight for this race?
Carrier Air Conditioning. They actually sponsor our real racing team, and so I try to get their stuff all over our cars everywhere. And you guys for doing a great job, and Ginsburg for having apparently his car and his face. I don't know if he's paying to put his, if I can maybe pick up another sponsorship or something from Greg and throw a cheese ad on I don't know. I'm just throwing ideas
Hey, if
out.
you want to pay me to put my face on your car, I'll be more than
I see what you're up to.
money.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for your good work tonight, and thanks for the fun. Have a great night.
All right, John. Thanks a lot. Greg?
You're welcome.
All right. Thanks, John Vogel, newest member of the Greg Ginsburg Racing Team. Thank you very much. All right. So it looks like we're probably not going to have Wanchi Lin in to talk to us about tonight's race. So, Brian, why don't we start to wrap things up here from Lime Rock? And from the looks of it, we might be in the running for the Excellent Driver Award in Spec Racer Ford as well after tonight's outing. Next week, we're not going to have a broadcast. All right. So next week, of course, it is Christmas and New Year's week. We are going to still have a league event. We're going to have a fun race at Mosport at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, where our drivers are going to be racing the Cadillac CTS-V World Challenge GT cars. So a spec race there, but again, not broadcast. Our next time on air, Brian and I will be heading to, you'll be here for this one, Brian.
I will.
We're going to be heading to Brian's and my home track, Summit Point Motorsports Park, nestled away in Summit Point, West Virginia. That is going to be Tuesday night, January 4th. Same time as always, 9 p.m. We're going to have the Spec Racer Fords join us once again there at Summit, and then we're going to have our RE2 Formula cars as well. It should be a great time as always, and and Brian and I, of course, will sit back and probably more than any other track go and critique the poor lines that drivers are taking down in the turn 5, because that's what we do whenever we go to Summit Point. So again, everybody, if you liked what you saw here tonight, please go ahead and give us a thumbs up, and if you haven't done so already, go ahead and subscribe to Apex Racing TV's YouTube channel and click on that notification bell so you can find out when each of the events, especially each of the Ray Esports events, are ready to start up. And if you haven't done so already, you can follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Twitter. All you got to do is search for one single word, and that is Apex Racing TV. And you'll be glad you did. So for Brian Donati, for Dennis Branch back in the production truck, I'm Greg Ginsburg, and we'll see you not in 1, but in 2 weeks, January 4th, Tuesday night, 9 p.m. from Summit Point Motorsports Park. Everybody have a great Christmas and a Happy New Year.